Airport security of Reddit, what's the weirdest experience you've had while scanning luggage? Some Chinese people on border security TV shows. Did you pack any food? No. Opens luggage. 40 kilos of banned food items. Next story. Elderly woman with a sword cane. She had no idea it was a sword. Her son was a service member and had sent it to her from the Philippines without mentioning what it was. A couple headed up to Alaska with a sink, complete with plumbing attached in a large duffel bag. Hunter returning from Canada with some unlicensed stuff. Unprepped and still bleeding severed musk ox heads wrapped in plastic. Whole baggage system for half the airport had to be shut down and cleaned, along with a couple of our machines. One lady who spent the time her bag was in the x-ray screaming that x-rays weren't real, and that we had put a little person in the machine going through her bag to steal things. In cargo, an automatic grenade launcher built out of clear polycarbonate, so the arms dealer transporting it could show off its inner workings. Would have been fine if it hadn't been undeclared and accompanied by a small box of grenades. The sink? Like, what do you mean with plumbing attached? How much plumbing? Does it just mean like some pipes fitted on the ends of all of the, what are they called? The places where the water go. I'm not a plumber, man. Anyway, I can only imagine it took up the whole duffel bag, so they just had their luggage. And then the sink bag. That could not have been light. Next story. TSA officer. Ma'am, I just gotta look in your bag real quick.
Oh, it's just my plug. It has electronics inside.
It's just your soap. It's too big to go. I cannot make this up. The thing I tell new people is you can never be ready for what might happen every day. Next story. Saw a bag filled to the brim with all different kinds of spoons. Pulled it aside and asked the passenger what the deal was. He looked me straight in the face and says he uses them to spank his wife in bed. They're the banging spoons. Edit. When I said saw, I meant while I was analyzing the image on the x-ray machine, I wasn't simply targeting the passenger by sight. Next story. I'm not airport security, but one time I was in the security line with my parents and a little sister, and we got stopped because they found something in her bag. The person at the scanner opens my little sister's backpack and pulls out a freaking rock the size of a grapefruit. He just looks at us and goes, "What's this?" And my little sister goes,
That's my pet rock.
He put it back in the bag and told us we were good. She took her pet rock on the plane. My parents were totally mortified. Next story. I'm not airport security, but I do have an interesting story. So, I'm checking through airport security. In front of me, a woman in her 40s, I assume. I only have my laptop as carry-on, so I grab 2 trays. One for my laptop, the other for my shoes, wallet, phone, etc. As I'm waiting for this lady to put her stuff in trays, she drops her purse. I'm not exaggerating whatsoever when I say about 100 rubber packets fall out of her purse and spew across the floor. There were probably a lot more inside, too. Being the gentleman I am, I asked the woman if she needed help, and scooped them up. TSA officers from all over were staring at her with wide eyes. Nobody said a word. Eventually, we managed to get through, and I never saw the woman again. Okay, genuine question. What's she doing with all those? Easy, funny answer, oh, she's gonna use them, But no, really. Hundreds? Are you smuggling them? Is there something inside of them? Somehow? I don't know. I'm not buying that they're all, for pleasure, as it were. Next story. In the early 90s, my family and I are trying to get back to the US from Paris. At the airport, they scanned all of our luggage as part of the routine, even back then. During the process, the officials got pretty excited or upset or surprised. We didn't speak much French and they spoke little English, but a number of them crowded around the monitor for one suitcase. They finally brought me over to the screen and pointed to an image on the x-ray. At the bottom of my wife's suitcase, it appeared to be an outline of a pistol. As it turned out, it was my wife's curling iron with power cord rolled up just right, but I couldn't make them understand what I was trying to tell them. So I just pretended to curl my hair like I've seen my wife do with the thing. They started laughing and were so relieved it was nothing, so we were on our way quickly after that. Back when flying was actually fun. Next story. Okay, I'm not airport security, but this is in the same sport of what you're asking for. When we were coming back from Afghanistan, a few of us were tasked to serve as customs type people. We had to search bags for any non-authorized items. Things like weapons, war trophies, money, things like that. Anyway, it's hot as balls, and I'm on like my 10th group of folks. We're going through the whole spiel and I get to the part where I have them all turn their sleeping bags upside down and shake them out. Well, out drops this huge purple fake dong from this guy's bag. It's enormous, and it rolls to a stop in the sand at my feet. I'm speechless. I know this guy. Worked like 2 seats away from him for a year. We lock eyes. His face is mortified. There are a dozen other soldiers all around dumping their bags. None have noticed yet. I just yell out, "Okay, back it up," and walk away like I didn't notice. If this guy planted that to smuggle some crap out, he earned it. I was not going to mess with any more of that. We never spoke of it afterward. Next story. So my wife is from Belarus, and she went to visit her parents in 2015 while I worked in Arkansas. As a souvenir, she brought back a little keychain lighter in the shape of a grenade. I thought it was awesome and kept it at my desk at work. A year later, I accepted a job offer in Illinois, packed up all my desk stuff, including the lighter, into a spare backpack and tossed it with my other stuff when we moved. Fast forward to the fall of 2017, and we all go visit Belarus for 2 weeks. I took that same backpack, and when I emptied it, I forgot that I had stuffed the lighter into a hidden side pocket. Flew from O'Hare to Frankfurt to Minsk, no problem. At the end of the trip, flew from Minsk to Frankfurt, and we were going to our connection for our final flight back to Chicago and went through another checkpoint. Everything going fine, but I realized it's been 3 or 4 minutes and all the bags have stopped coming through the scanner. I figure it's either broken or someone got flagged for a check. Still waiting. I'm standing behind the guy running the scanner so I can see his screen. He keeps zooming in and out on what looks like an umbrella in a backpack. I have an umbrella in my backpack, but why would that be suspicious? Then I see him scan around and stop on what looks like a grenade, and it's zoomed in so it appears full size instead of tiny. Ah, crap, I forgot about the thing. Immediately I realize that 5 or 6 other guards with submachine guns have arrived. I chuckle nervously because I'm a moron, I guess, and raise my hand telling them it's mine. It's a lighter, and I'm really sorry. They cordon off like 75% of the area. People are restless. I tell the head submachine gun guy that it's a lighter and I forgot about it, but I'm one of those idiots who chuckles annoyingly when I'm embarrassed, so the officers get mad at me. Another 3 guys approach my bag and use prong-like tools or something to open the bag and gingerly bring out the grenade. After staring at it, one of the guards appears to go screw it and opens and flicks the lighter. The mood immediately switches from tense to screw this American moron, and the guards chastise me for not realizing how serious the situation is. At this point, my wife and kids leave to go to the gate. It's been 40 minutes now and everyone in the airport hates me. I ended up having to surrender my lighter and they made me sign a form acknowledging that I had brought a look-alike explosive device to the airport and surrendered it. No sense of humor at all from these guys. They really lived up to their reputation. They finally let me go after more fingerprints and swab tests. I run like an out-of-shape American and barely catch the flight before it takes off. Others missed their flights. Sorry, people. This story made me remember I need to order a replacement. Next story. Not security, but a passenger. This one time when I was 17, 18, I was going through the Palm Springs airport security when my bag gets pulled aside by one of the officers after I walk through the scanner. The man pulls the bag off the belt, then looks me in the eyes and asks, "Is this yours?" I replied, "Yeah." "Is there anything inside I should be concerned about?" Slightly confused, I respond, "No, sir, I don't believe so." He then opens the bag, rummages inside until he pulls out a small box, asks me, deadpan seriously, "What is this?" At this point, I pick up just how much this officer is on edge. He was so tense. I swear he looked ready to charge me if I were to do so much as itch my chin the wrong way. The intensity emanating off of him was palpable, and I do my very best to hold my poise as I answer him with a straight face. "That is a soap on a rope, sir." He proceeds to take the soap on a rope out of the box, and I explain how my dad gave it to me as a joke gift for my birthday. Seeing his tension diffuse slightly, I ask what the problem was. Tells me that the soap has the consistency of C4, and the hole in the top was suspicious where rope met soap, so it was flagged as a potential bomb threat. Shortly after realizing the lack of threat and obvious misunderstanding, they let me through and I rejoined my family, soap on a rope and all. Next story. Not airport security, but when I was 7, I put my plastic dinosaur toy into the scanner in a mall. The dude thought I put my big pet lizard into the scanner and got scared. The funny thing is the dinosaur was an Allosaurus, placed sideways, and it looked nothing like a lizard through the screen. But I could see his reaction was genuine. Next story. Not airport security, but one time on a local flight, everyone in the line had to wait at bag check because a man was trying to bring a large tire on as hand luggage. It didn't fit in the scanning machine, but they wouldn't let him take it through the detector either. The stubbornness stalemate eventually died off, but needless to say, everyone was very upset. A tire, as in like the kind that go on a motor vehicle? Where was he planning to put that? That will not fit on the overhead. You can't have that in your lap. It won't fit under the seat. You better have bought a ticket or two for it, or that has nowhere to go. Next story. Not security here, but I used to work as a baggage handler, now loading supervisor, and whenever we felt a vibration from a bag, we had to get it inspected as it has a potential heat source and could start a fire. We cannot open it without security and the owner with us, local regulations, so it was always a hassle. But we always got big grins and everything when we felt it. 9 out of 10 times it was just a body groomer or something like that, and learned that vibrating fake dongs come in many different shapes and sizes thanks to that rare 1 out of 10. Next story. Two weirdest off the top of my head. I pull up the image of the bag and I see it's full of fake dongs, plugs, and a necklace that I can tell says harlot. Apparently got pulled for a liquid container. Before I even open the bag, the passenger says,
Don't worry, I'm not an escort. Just a harlot who likes to be prepared.
We both stare at each other in silence for a bit, and then I say, your lube is over 3.4 ounces, so it can't go.
No problem, I can improvise later.
Then she grabbed her bag and walked off like nothing happened. The other one involved a female coworker and a bag containing 2 glass fake dongs belonging to a middle-aged married couple. Husband. Oh, please don't say we can't take those. She loves when I use one in each of her holes at the same time. Wife, while handing my female coworker a business card.
Yes, dearie, and if we get to keep them, I'll give you a free demonstration when we get back.
I could barely contain my laughter as my coworker tried to keep her composure. After 3 years, I have tons of stories. For some reason, the rubber foot fleshlight I got in checked baggage always stuck with me, as in a rubber foot with a hole for the male private part where the ankle should be, and the full-fledged furry suit in a case along with cans of Alpo dog food. Look, man, I get it, different strokes for different folks, but what does that do for, There is some serious comprehension disconnect here. I feel like I'm missing something entirely. I'm surprised OP said the foot one first. I feel like the furry suit is a lot less, jarring? Or maybe that's just me. I guess there are some people out there who would find the furry thing weirder, huh? Next story. I was on an Air Force honor guard. Not my story, but my buddy's. We were going to be at a local airport receiving the body of a kid who died. I don't know why we didn't just use the airstrip at the base, but whatever. When a body is received, the plane will land, our pallbearers will march out with a full color guard, and retrieve the body off the plane for transport to the funeral home. Part of this includes rifles. So everyone got to the airport at around 8 p.m. They walk right up to security and explain they're going to be needing to go onto the flight line, and that they have rifles and a knife to cut the plastic wrap off the casket. The poor kid at TSA freaks out and calls his manager over. Apparently he heard, "We're going on your flight line and we have rifles," and not the, "We're the honor guard from blank AFB and we're here to escort an airman's body." Manager comes bounding over, and once he realizes what's going on, he starts cracking up and explains the situation to the poor kid. Apologies were exchanged and the body was retrieved successfully. The funeral sucked though. I was on that one and it was heavy. I really felt for the parents. Next story. I was the traveler in this scenario, flying to the UK to play some gigs with my violin. My violin is a typical acoustic instrument, with the addition of an LR Baggs pickup bridge. It looks kind of funky with the wires coming out of the bridge and going into the 1/4-inch jack. Oh boy, did security freak the hell out over that one. Put the case through the x-ray machine and was walked over to a room as soon as I identified it was mine. It was opened and the 3 TSA idiots were staring at it like it was a nuclear bomb. They wouldn't touch it. They questioned me. They screamed at me that I was lying and that they wanted me to tell them what I was planning. I showed them my travel plans and my bookings in London, and they huddled for a moment and then made me play the violin. I think they were expecting an actual explosion. I just made their faces melt with my awesome fiddle style. They apologized profusely and let me on my gate. I had 2 minutes to spare. TSA is a pack of freaking jerks. TSA means thousands standing around, and it shows. They don't know what a freaking violin is. Next story. Obligatory not airport security, but I was in the Pittsburgh airport security area and watched an entire family dressed in custom Islamic/Muslim clothing, sorry if this isn't the proper phrasing, get pulled aside for additional screening. Thought they were just getting profiled until a TSA officer asked them to open a large carry-on bag they had. It was literally filled with bottles of mayo. Absolutely nothing else but mayo in a pretty big bag. No clue what happened after that, but they probably dumped it all. I feel like I would have gone through that exact same thought process. I see people in typical Middle Eastern garb get pulled over by TSA, or pulled aside, I mean. Yeah, my initial thought's gonna be thinking, oh yeah, another random search, but I would feel like an idiot the second they open that box full of mayo. I'd just be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's a reason to stop them, I guess. What were they gonna do with all that? Next story. Flyer here. Was checking in at 4 a.m. for a flight. Had a firearm and checked baggage. As part of standard protocol, they pulled me aside for a quick verification that it was packed in a locked hard case and swabbed my fingers. We found traces of explosive residue. Like gunpowder? Have a nice day. Not even an issue. More of a hilarious brain fart by some poor soul who's probably sleep-deprived and running on autopilot, so to speak. Next story. Obligatory, I'm a passenger, not a TSA agent. When I was 8-ish years old, we took a trip to California and there were hundreds of snails all over the place. This fascinated me. There wasn't stuff like that in Minnesota. So I adopted 10 of them and carried them around on our trip, feeding them lettuce. Going through airport security, I watched them go through the x-ray and you could see them slowly moving around. This freaked out the agent and they called over a few people to search my bags. My dad just sat there laughing and they pulled out a jar of snails. They laughed as well and let me keep them. So the snails lived happily ever after in a bowl of lettuce looking out the window at the snow. Aren't there, like, restrictions about bringing live creatures or even plants over to places? Maybe it's fine because same country, but surely there's some invasive species watch out for that, right? Or maybe they're like, there's snails everywhere. But clearly not if OP said they didn't see stuff like that where they were from. I'm interested to know what year this was in. Next story. Obligatory, not airport security. I was going to an interview and decided to pack some fancy bath stuff for the hotel just for fun. As it turns out, a bar of soap packed next to a phone charger looks a lot like an explosive device on the x-ray. Not a huge deal. Pretty common, apparently. But they had to search the bag anyway. No problem. Until the security lady pulls out a Lush bag.
What's this?
It's a bath fizzer. A bath fizzer. She stared at me for a few seconds before it seemed to click what I was referring to. She finished the search and handed my bag back, bath bomb and all. Nope, I wouldn't have caught that in time. I would have said bath bomb and been tackled to the floor. Nice quick thinking, OP. Next story. Not security, but a passenger. This isn't that weird, but it still makes me chuckle. A few years ago, I was in Amsterdam for about a month. Now, I love cheese as much as the next person, and I wanted to bring some different kinds of Gouda back to the US for myself, my friends, and my family. This was totally legal and all. I checked beforehand, but the customs agent thought it was hilarious when they opened my bag, and I had literally 6 pounds of cheese in cheese wheel form in my suitcase. Got to keep the cheese, and it was totally worth it. Next story. Not a screener myself, but I huck bags for an airline. One day I threw a couple of bags on the screener and neglected to let the CATSA, Canadian version of the TSA, agent know that they had firearms and ammunition in them. I can only imagine the reaction of him crapping his pants when he had been sitting there all day, bored out of his mind, screening bag after bag after bag, to suddenly see the giant outline of a shotgun in front of his face on the screen. He nearly broke the door down of his little hut, getting out to grab the bag, and looked at me like, "Is there a declared firearm in this bag?" To which I responded, "Yeah, should have mentioned it." Next story. I live where there is no Trader Joe's, so when I do visit friends out of state, I bring an extra suitcase and load up. My bag was flagged for inspection after going through the x-ray, so I'm standing there and the TSA officer takes out my JoJo's cookies, swabs the packaging, checks it isn't Coke, and shouts back to the x-ray guy, "Hey, Eric, it was the JoJo's." A tangent, but Trader Joe's stuff, as a Canadian, we don't have that here. Yeah, every time I used to go down to visit family in California, I would always come back with at least something. I don't even know what they are. They're these little, rectangular cube fruit things. They're basically gummies, but they're better than any gummies I've ever had. Fruit jellies, they might call them. I don't know. But they are probably the best thing to come out of the States. No offense. Next story. I went through security once and they pulled my laptop bag and were looking through it quite intently. Turns out I had forgotten I had kept a drafting compass in there. You know, the scissor-like tool that has a pencil holder on one end and a sharp metal point on the other, used for drawing circles? Yeah, I said a sharp metal point. They looked at it and I was expecting them to confiscate it, but they just put it back and cleared me to fly. I'm thinking to myself, wow, you could probably stab someone in the carotid. Next story. Not security, but I was quite upset about this. My brother always has a pocket knife on him. He just keeps it around because he gets the multi-tool ones with fingernail clippers, screwdrivers, and whatever else. Several times he has forgotten about them and had to throw them away before airport security. This one was a particularly thin wallet multi-tool and he'd forgotten to take it out this time, so the security person just asks him if it's okay to throw it out and he moves on. End of story. Well, I go through security immediately afterwards and I'm super prepared. Not a thing is out of place. The metal detector that you walk through goes off and she pulls me to the side. Apparently the sweater I was wearing had a type of yarn that had the gold threads, and the machines hate that. It looked like I was wearing chainmail under my shirt. 2 pat-downs later and having them check my shoes, luggage, etc., and I'm good to go. Still mad to this day that my brother went right through security with a knife, and I spent half an hour there because of my terrible choice in clothing. Next story. I've got one being the passenger, not airport security. My dad, sister, and I used to travel a lot. I was probably 7, my second time ever being on a plane. We are in security, send our carry-on bags through, only to be reminded by TSA that I had a little manicure set in my bag with nail clippers, a file, etc. They reminded me by pulling me out of line, searching me in front of everyone while I'm crying, confused as crap, and hey, I was mortified, to say the least. Next story. This happened within my first month of work. I had been done with my initial training and was sent out when the scanner read something that looked suspicious in someone's bag. When I took the bag aside and searched the suspicious item, it turned out to be a Toblerone bar. But just to be sure, I opened it up, and inside the box were 3 ounces of crack coke and a lighter. The guy booked it out of the airport, leaving all of his luggage behind. Okay, well, surely if they've reached that point, they've purchased a ticket and checked in. If they really wanted to find the guy for this, they probably could. Booking it was an interesting decision. I wonder if that worked out for him. Next story. Last summer, my family and I flew to Singapore. I got my dad a dab cartridge, THC concentrate, the week prior. He brought it attached to the battery through Singapore customs. They pulled him aside and said, "Do you have a vape?" He said yes, and they didn't bother to check exactly what it was. Smuggling weed into Singapore is punishable by death. When I heard the man ask my dad, my heart stopped. Next story. I remember once I was flying out of Melbourne when I was about 14 heading to Christchurch to meet up with my parents. So I put my bag on the tray for the x-ray machine and the border force guy puts it through. I go through the metal detector and wait for my bag to come out. Then the other border force guy who's looking at the x-ray screen calls one of his colleagues over, points at the screen, looks at me, laughs, and pulls my bag aside and calls me over. I go up to him and he looks me straight in the eye and says, "We don't allow screwdrivers on the plane. We don't allow screwdrivers on the plane." I'm pretty damn confused at that point, until he unzips the front pocket and pulls out my goddamn 12th Doctor Sonic screwdriver. Both him and the other guy are peeing themselves laughing. So then he asked where I got it and how much it cost, because he wanted to get his son one for his birthday. He then handed my bag back and told me not to disassemble the plane while I'm up there. I'll admit, as far as accents go, my Aussie and New Zealand ones are lacking. I hope none of you guys hate me now. I'm sorry, I'll do better. Next story. I was the bringer, not the finder, but I nearly got butt probed over a ham sammy. We were returning to the US from Medellin, Colombia. I knew we were likely to be disassembled, so I was prepared. I did not know it was the sandwich that would be my downfall. We were leaving from Bogota, and I brought the sandwich of contention. It was dry, sad, and after a bite or so, I was like, gross. Pass. Somehow I forgot about it when the flight attendants did the last trash call. I felt bad just leaving a random warm ham sandwich on my seat and wanted to throw it away myself since I'm not a savage. So I picked it up, planning to bin it on my way out. Tactical error. I ended up in customs still clutching my rejected sandwich. The customs dude was like, you can't have that. Go down the escalator and dispose of it." I went down the escalator to hell. It was the bend me over and probe me zone. I had to retrieve all my crap for special screening. That entailed a 7-foot dude with a giant hands who took one look at me, cut off my garbled sandwich explanation, and literally leered while snapping on his gloves with extra vinegar. He then laughed his butt off at my expression and was like, "I'm just screwing with you, just chuck your forbidden sandwich in the biohazard bin. I'm gonna x-ray your luggage again and off you go." Don't bring international sandwiches, folks. Next story. In the more innocent 80s, we cut some aluminum into the silhouette of a piston pistol and tucked it inside the lining of my mate's suitcase as he left for his honeymoon. He wasn't amused. He was less amused by the frozen trout somebody snuck into his car, which didn't last too well parked in the sun for 2 weeks. Narrator's commentary. Oh no, the smell. That car is ruined. There's no way anything would ever take that out, right? It's all over, man. It's all over. Next story. Obligatory, not airport security. I remembered my mini Swiss Army knife on my keys and mailed it back despite the fees. It was my good one with a bunch of extra things on it. Realized I accidentally got my key knife, looks like a key is a small knife, and pepper spray through security sometime later. I habitually kept the pepper spray in my backpack and put it in my pocket when not carrying my backpack. So I did that when I got to my destination. Fast forward a couple of days and I'm at the doctor's office. My pepper spray's in my pocket and I have to lie face first on the table so the doctor can check my knee. I empty pockets and ask my dad to hold the stiff. He takes one look at the pepper spray and asks, "Did you bring this home?" I blink a couple of times. Yup, we all got a good laugh out of it. Realized the key knife a couple seconds later. Next story. So I was traveling with my dad on a domestic flight, and we get to security and my dad always carries food with him. He leaves it in as usual and his backpack goes through. The lady pulls him aside to check his food to make sure there's nothing funny in it, and making sure he's not carrying seeds and whatnot. My dad's carrying almonds, and the lady takes the almonds out and gives them a very thorough check. My dad, never having that much attention drawn to a bag of his almonds, asked if everything was all right, and she says, trying to hold back laughter, "Your nuts look fine, sir." My dad smirks, she's turning a bit red, and I'm smirking. We head to our gate. Next story. Not mine, but a friend of mine who worked at customs security as head chief was supervising the scanned luggage. Suddenly, a guitar belonging to an old lady, probably mid-70s, according to my friend's description, comes in through the scanner, and he noticed there was something inside the guitar, in the interior. They couldn't see what it was, so he decided to make a security check once it was on the other end of the scanner, and so he did. But when he asked her to open up the guitar case, she became really nervous and avoided all sorts of eye contact as if she were truly frightened. My friend noticed this but didn't say much because he wanted to keep things as calm as possible, so he proceeded to open up the case. He then removed the strings and finally introduced his hand through the hole and almost instantly felt something in there. Turns out the lady just couldn't find the proper place to put her fake dong, so she hid it in the guitar. When my friend realized this, he struggled to hold in his laughter and said something along the lines of, "Miss, the next time you bring your radio with you, make sure to remove the batteries before the flight." Hey, shout out to your friend for keeping it on the down low, though. That's a true homie move where he did not have to do that. This poor woman was probably already embarrassed out of her mind, so he did her a solid there. Speaking of solid, never mind. Next story. Not security, but when we went on our honeymoon, 6 years after marrying, to Italy, my husband went through the body scanner and set it off. He took off his belt and went through again, and it went off. He took off his watch, went through again, and it went off. At this point, 3 policemen with guns turned up. I was terrified. Turned out to be his lucky, fake, coin in his body warmer. Yeah, it was the 80s, which he never thought to remove. Lucky. Yeah, right. Next story. Obligatory, not security. I work in film production and was traveling with my gear. We were going to be in remote places, so I brought a block battery. This is basically an electric wheelchair battery in a sealed Pelican case with connector ports on the side. I intentionally purchased a TSA-approved sealed gel cell battery that doesn't leak and is made specifically for wheelchair users to be able to go on planes with them. It had labels on it depicting this, and it came with paperwork. The Pelican case is also gasketed and basically leak-proof. I bring it up to the baggage check-in area, and the guy was acting like I had set a cartoon-style time bomb in front of him. Word salads ensued about how batteries can't be on planes, blah blah blah. 3 people were assessing the situation. I was brought to a special baggage area where they insisted the battery must go in this special TSA Ziploc taped up, then into a TSA box thing that had acid-absorbing stuff all inside it. I barely made my flight because of this. Meanwhile, no less than 3 dudes came through with assault rifles and breezed through like it was nothing. Next story. A guy I work with has a brother who is somewhat of a bigwig at the TSA. He had my coworker bring a pressure cooker with a brick of C4 wrapped in tinfoil and a couple copper wires and a Timex watch hastily shoved into a duffel bag through security in the Cleveland airport. They did catch him, and my coworker only had to spend about 2 minutes in handcuffs. OP didn't say this, but surely it was some sort of test for the staff, right? This wasn't just for fun, because that seems like a dangerous game to play. Next story. Passenger, not security. When I was younger, I had trouble with anxiety, so when my family would fly out to my grandma's house for Christmas, I would bring a weighted stuffed animal, a regular stuffed animal but stuffed with aquarium rocks instead. The first year we traveled with it, the security people started to get very concerned because the material showed up like a bomb or something. They were very vague about it. So they took my mom's bag for the chemical test, and of course, my meds ended up being right next to it. They set off the chemical tests, so my mom was interrogated and strip searched before they let her on the plane. After that, I always put Charles in a separate bin, and they tested him every time. Next story. Obligatory not security, but because I'm not security. But based on the guy's face, I gave him a story to tell. My wife is Chinese. We grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area and moved to the Midwest. One year I was visiting home and my mother-in-law and father-in-law bought some of my wife's favorite food so I could take it home to her because, while it's easy to get in California, we couldn't get it in the Midwest. I pack it in my carry-on luggage, go through security, and get stopped. Because, you see, my wife's favorite food is duck tongue, which doesn't do it justice because when it's purchased, it's really more like the lower jaw of the duck. So there are a ton of bones, and it probably looks suspicious as hell on an X-ray. So the TSA agent holds up the opaque, cold box and says, "What's this?" Duck tongue? His face just kind of falters, and I can almost hear the gears grinding in his brain before it spits out a "does not compute," and he responds, what? I helpfully respond, "It's duck tongues." Blank look. Like the tongue of a duck? Blanker look. Quack. He looked at the box, put it back in the bag, and told me I was cleared to go. Side note, duck tongue is a pain in the butt to debone and eat, but it's delicious. Next story. Baby, living in carry-on. Parents deposited capsule into belt with blanket covering child. Baby passed and in a coffin. Was checked in. Airline didn't know. Was huge blow up. Hidden in a suitcase. Placenta. This one is easy as security. Honestly, I didn't care what you took where as long as it did not hurt, maim, or blow up the plane in transit. Placenta taken home to the homeland and eaten or buried. Personal fans. Our code for personal adult stress relievers. More common in checked-in luggage. Record was 13 in one bag. Next story. I once had to fly from Canada to the States with my cat. Of course, I brought a travel litter case with a zipper so he could go potty between flights and such. The case was filled with the crystal type of litter. Went through security and they pulled me aside. They said they needed to know what was in the case, and I said, well, it's a travel cat litter box, and you should be warned, there's fecal matter and urine in it. I was so embarrassed, but we were laughing about it. He said he was new and his coworkers were teasing him. He had to open it and take samples of the crystals and the cat turds and dip 3 different colored liquids onto the samples. He also swabbed my hands. He eventually cleared me and I apologized profusely and went on my way. Honestly, for a large portion of these stories, I don't blame them. Like, I have no idea what crystal type of kitty litter would look like on an X-ray machine. It probably would look at least a little suspicious. All this stuff really makes you wonder how much TSA is actually helping though, doesn't it? Oh well, it is what it is, I guess. I do not think these things are going to be lightened up anytime soon if I had to guess. Also, where were the stories from the actual security people? Like, usually the split is bad, there's a lot of obligatory, but I'm not blah blah blah. But this felt like it had a lot, like 80+% of the stories. Am I crazy? Airport security people, where are you? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.